Hi everyone, it's Allie, and I'm back with another video. This is part 2 in what I'm calling my transitional life story. So, let's dive in. When last we left me, I was 13, 14 years old. I was getting ready to go from junior high to high school. I was clueless in how to talk to girls, except if I just wanted to be their friends. I also was understanding boys less and less as we moved through puberty. My body was betraying me, which I kind of saw as good and bad at the time, because I thought maybe puberty would push this out of my system. Well, really, it made it worse, because now I'm watching girls develop into women, and I'm jealous of that. My eyes keep getting drawn to those parts that the girls were getting that I wasn't. Instead, I was getting broader, my voice was getting deeper, I was getting facial hair, and just things that really kind of bothered me, except for I thought, well, maybe this meant I was going to be a man. Like this desire, whatever you want to call it, was going to go away. It didn't go away. It got worse in some ways. So high school. Now, at this point, I was getting too big to wear my mother's clothing. So I resorted to, when we talk about, well, what do I do cross-dressing wise? So we'll cover that, and then I'll move on to some other stuff. Women's underwear. And I'm really lucky I never got caught doing what I was doing. I would go to stores and steal. There was no easy way for me to get stuff. So that is kind of what I would do, and it's going to be important as we move forward, and this is going to be a big revelation. So, Mom, Dad, any of my family members who watch this, if you hear this, I'm okay. It's something I worked through in therapy, and there's no way you could have known. All right, and so I'm going to get to that in a second. So, typically what I would do is I would go to a store, whatever, like the equivalent of a Walmart today. Back then it was like Venture, Zare, I think there were a couple others. So anyways, I would go and I would wander around the store, and I would grab a pair of women's underwear, and I'd grab something else to try on, and I would go into the dressing rooms, and I would try the stuff on, and I would put on the underwear, and then I'd put my clothes on over it, and I'd walk out. And I would collect, and then I'd feel guilty, and then I would purge, only to begin again. And at the time, I kind of thought it was like a fetish thing for me, except for, like I said, I remember I started doing it. It wasn't, and I'll get to that as I get into my adulthood and revelations I begin to have as kind of some of these repressed memories start coming to the forefront. So that's kind of what I started doing in high school. And so I can still remember a family trip between, I think, my freshman and sophomore year of high school. I went to Space Academy, what's known as Space Camp, in Huntsville, Alabama, with a friend. And when my parents picked me up, we decided to go down to Florida to visit my grandparents who were living there. And we had gone out to lunch or something, and I told my mom, my brother, and I'm like, I'll walk back, you guys can drive back. And I walked back, and I went into one of these stores like I had done countless times, and put the undies on, put the clothes on, walked out, and it was this strip mall that was, I think, mostly empty. But anyways, I can remember it was like an L, and I came out. The store was here on the corner. I came out and I walked, and then I walked, and then I walked like a deserted part of the mall, really. And this guy came running up behind me and kind of flashed a badge. He was shorter than I was, and um, I thought, uh-oh, I'm caught, and I'm wearing a pair of panties. And I'm like, oh, I'm just, it's not going to be good. Like, I'm going to get in trouble. My parents are going to find out. How am I going to explain this? And that's what was going through my mind. So I was frozen. And this guy circles me, and he's like, well, what are we doing? And I'm like, I'm just walking home. And he's like, well, he starts like to pat me down. And I'm like, well, he's not going to find anything patting me down. But I'm still frozen. And I was bigger than he was, but he was definitely muscular, and he was a grown man. I was not. Um, so then he made to pull my waistband open, and I still didn't move. Um, and he pulled it open, and he saw the women's underwear, and he saw my genitals, and only when he went to reach into my pants, he didn't touch me, but almost, did I kind of like snap out of it and slap his hand away, and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, I don't know, you tell me. And I'm thinking I'm going to have to fight this guy, and it's probably not going to go well. And so we kind of like this standoff moment, and right at that moment, my mom comes driving up in my grandfather's car looking for me, and she rolls down the window and she says to the guy, what's going on? And he takes off running, and he runs across the street away from the store. Clearly he was a predator, and he was watching me, and he followed me out. And yeah, so I'm not making light of it, and I know I'm smiling because this is like a nervous topic. And me admitting this to the public, I've shared this, like I said, with a therapist and with some friends. But yeah, well, no, I guess I've shared it with me too, you know. And I've always made the comment, and I know this video is probably going to be more closer to 15 minutes because of this story, but I think this story is important. Because I was trans, I did something that boys don't do, and as a result, it got me sexually assaulted. Now, did that mess with me? Yeah, it did. I didn't say anything to my parents. If, like I said, they watch this is the first they'll hear of it, because I don't know how you share something like that 30 years later. It definitely messed with some things in my head for a while, even though I didn't think it did. Like, looking back and working through therapy, you realize it does. Oh, by the way, I just thought, I noticed no makeup, au natural, no filters, so you get to see that, yes, I really am in my mid-40s. So, and I know I just did a nervous thing, but I do that. This is a nervous topic. I would say to women after transition that, you know, when I share that story with them, I'd say, yeah, I know it's nowhere near as bad what you went through. And, you know, women that are friends of mine who have been raped, and they're the ones that, like, with me saying that, had the grace to say to me, you know what? Everything's relative. Somebody did something to you without your permission. And that really is at the heart of all sexual assault. It definitely impacted me from the perspective of, you know, of course I wasn't going to be a normal college kid, and I'll talk about that later, but it definitely impacted me. Consent is really important to me and always has. And I've been made fun of by women for that. Like, when I was younger, I'd be like, would it be okay if I kissed you? And usually they giggle and they'd be okay with it. You know, they thought it was cute. To me, it should be a standard. There's nothing wrong with asking permission to verify. I think that's what the assault on me did. Yeah, it just, no matter how masculine I appeared to be, that was always something that, you know, I wouldn't, if a girl had been drinking more than me, I wouldn't have sex with her in college. or later, just couldn't. And it was because of that assault that happened when I was 14-ish, I think. So that was like going to my sophomore year of high school. The rest of high school was really uneventful. Just I was really awkward, really horny all the time. Um, I thought about what it would be like to have girl parts. I thought about what it would be like to date men. Um, but I wasn't gay. Um, I had a few thoughts about that, like from a girl's perspective. Like, well, if I was a girl, it would be totally okay to date men. Um, so I don't know. Maybe I liked men back then too. I don't know, but I do remember I had some of those thoughts. Um, but yeah, that's when I started playing a game what I would call, um, if I was a girl, and it kind of went like this. Like I'd see a girl wearing something or doing something, and I'd be like, well, if I was a girl, I wouldn't wear that. I would wear this, this, or this. And if I was a girl, I wouldn't date him. I would do that. Like, because obviously I'm not a girl. Because, like, every teenage boy thinks about having a vagina and thinks about, like, doing things that girls do. And, and this is, of course, in my understanding as a teenager. Like, what does a boy do? What does a girl do? Whatever the hell they want to do, really. If it makes them happy and it doesn't hurt anybody, then they should. But we're talking about binary, so traditional binary behavior. So I didn't date in high school. I threw myself into school, and sometimes I was a good student, sometimes I wasn't. I threw myself into athletics until I didn't. I got to be friends with a group that played Dungeons and Dragons, and this was like awesome to me because I was a dreamer. I'd always been a dreamer, and so a chance to make believe and be somebody that I'm not when I'm trying so hard to pretend to be somebody I'm not anyways. And eventually playing Dungeons and Dragons, that turned into I started playing female characters in Dungeons and Dragons. And, the guys would make fun of me a little bit, like, oh, you're gonna play a girl. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get in touch with my feminine side, and I would think, like, this is awesome. Because I just get to be me, or a variation of me in a game. And that was nice. That would have, later on, as video games evolved, if there was an option to play a female character, I always did. And that's pretty common amongst trans women. If they play Dungeons and Dragons, and a lot still do, a lot still game. I've changed it enough that it doesn't really hold a huge draw for me. I do sometimes play video games still, but there's just so much I'd rather be doing that I'm just really not into it anymore. Let's see, what else from high school? Didn't really date, horny, so yes. It was always, like I said before, it was always this conundrum of looking at the beautiful woman, naked or in lingerie, and being one part attracted to them and one part wanting to be like them. Always weird for me. So by my senior year of high school, that year I decided I never thought I was a good-looking guy. That was like, I thought average, maybe a little bit above average, but I did go to all the dances my senior year of high school. So I went to homecoming, I went to turnabout, I went to prom. So I hadn't been to a dance until then, and then I went to every dance. So it wasn't hard if I wanted to do it to make it happen, but typically no. I didn't really care. And I didn't care because who wants to go to a dance wearing a boy's suit when what you really want to be wearing is a dress? But again, like I said, for me it's not about the dress, it's about the body that fills the dress. And so it was just like I'm watching these girls and they get asked to prom and they get to go buy a dress and they get to make a day of it. And yeah, I'm jealous as hell. But that again, I have to keep that to myself, right? Um, so high school finally ends, and it's an opportunity for me to say, I'm going to reinvent myself. I go to college, I can be whoever I want to be, whatever I want to be. I don't have to be that awkward kid, I can be that confident guy, right? And so I go off to college with the intent to be that guy. And so I was going to talk a little bit about college on this, but we're at 15 minutes, and so I'm going to stop here. And when I do my next video, we'll just do one for the college years, because there's some serious stuff that goes on during that time that should have clued me in more. But at this point, I was already questioning, was I transgender? And so I knew the word, and I knew what a transgender woman was from Tua Lacassi, who had done a Playboy pictorial. And so that's where I started having these thoughts. I would deny them, but they started showing up in my head probably in my late teens on a regular basis. But anyways, I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to go make dinner because it's evening here. And I probably will come back with another video tomorrow or the day after. We'll see how my work schedule is. But anyways, much love to you all. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Bye.